Doors opening. Going down.
Welcome to week 17. It's super windy down here. I'm at the Cumberland Basin in Bristol, which is the floating harbour area where the swim takes place at the Bristol Triathlon. I thought today I'd talk you through a little bit about the triathlon in Bristol and why I love it so much. Maybe that'll involve some of the history to do with the area and maybe give you some top tips if you're going to race this, make your race a little bit better. Since I started racing in the mid-90s, racing triathlon in the mid-90s, I've done about 70 races. I've done this one 5 or 6 times and it's my favourite race. There's so much to like about it, closed roads to the bike, just the historical area of where it is, and the fact it's all kind of centrally kind of hubbed around here, this area over here on this side of the river where the transition area is. So the swim starts down here and goes out and does a clockwise loop of the Cumberland Basin. Cumberland Basin was dug in the early 1800s as part of the floating harbour system. This pretty much stays at the same height all year round to make sure that there's enough water in the tidal river, and it does two clockwise laps if you're doing the standard distance or the Olympic distance, and 1 lap if you're doing the sprint distance. One of my tips for this would be to work on your sighting and your turns. Really, there's 5 or 6 buoys each lap that you have to negotiate. It kind of goes out along the wall and then turns underneath the Plimsoll bridge that you can see just here, and then comes back down this side, and then there's a V shape that comes in a little bit to make up the distance. Then you have to come back here and then you do a second lap, or you come back in the pontoon that's on this side, and then you run down as far as that blue container on the land side, and then that takes you back into transition. So on race day, this whole area is closed off. You can see that blue container in the distance where the swim in comes into transition, and this whole area is the transition area, closed off, bikes racked, and you come in from the swim, grab your bike and head out on the bike route. The bike mount line is usually where that black car is, and I usually don't put my feet in the shoes and do the shoes up until I'm over the swing bridge, which is over the other side. Man, the sun's playing havoc with exposures. So the bike route comes out of transition, swings a left, comes over this bridge, turns left at this junction where this silver Fiesta's going, stays on the left hand side and goes out underneath the bridge down the end there and out on the straight bit. I'd recommend waiting until you get past this left hand turn before you put your feet in your shoes and do your shoes up. And then you're out into the tuck position, getting aero. Stay all the way there in the aero position until you get to Shirehampton where the turnaround is. Obviously it's about 5k that way under the suspension bridge. Get to Shirehampton, there's a dead turn at the end. My one bit of advice, apart from getting a really good aerodynamic position, practicing your dead turns, your right-handed dead turns, and trying to get the power coming back out so you don't lose too much momentum. And then you come back up this bridge here and you come back along the Plimsoll bridge. I'd recommend on the last lap taking your feet out of your shoes here, because when you come down the spiral ramp, which is on the right hand side here, back to the bike dismount area, you go underneath the bridge to the bike dismount, you won't have enough time coming around the spiral to take your feet out of your shoes, so you want to be taking them off when you're going across this bridge here. So on your bike laps, when you come in under the bridge, you go past that 20-mile-an-hour sign and you go right, and then you come back over and you go back across that swing bridge at the back here to go out and do your second lap. On your last lap, you carry straight on, and about where that sign is, just below my finger here, that's where the bike dismount is, and that's what I mean about you not having much time to get your feet out before you get into transition. So the bike dismount's more or less there. The paint stays on the road for weeks as a reminder of the fun and games that you've had whilst you've been racing. You usually get people kind of running and doing some fitness work down here. There's a personal trainer based just over here behind me, and there's also a shop called BW Cycles here. Vans right here beside me actually, which is a really good bike shop in Bristol, part owned by a guy called Ollie Beckinsdale, who's an ex-pro rider. Check this out. She's just kicking back. It won't be like that for anyone on race day. So the run comes out of transition and goes up this area where the graffiti is here and across this bridge, and it goes over this river here, which is called the New Cut. It's called the New Cut because it's a man-made river. It was dug in the early 1800s when they built the floating harbour, and it was built by Irish and English navvies, although there's rumours that French prisoners of war were also used. It was dug by hand. You can follow it all the way along then when you're running, all the way along this pathway, which is called the tow path. You can see the flat area between the trees and the river here. So this is all tidal still, which means that the lock gates, which are the other side on the Cumberland Basin, keep the water in the harbour, and this new cut basically keeps the River Avon tidal. All the way along under the suspension bridge, you get to 2.5k and you turn around and come back if you're doing the sprint distance, or you carry on to 5k and turn around and come back if you're doing the Olympic distance. When you get past 2.5k, it does get a bit traily, so racing flats might not be the order of the day. If you're running out that way, maybe something a little bit more sturdy might do you. And then when you come back, it's a little shy of 5k and 2.5k, because when you come back, it's a bit of a sort of false flat, if you like, and you get back to this point and you think you're going to turn around and come back in, but there's about another k left of loop that you have to do to kind of make up the distance, and you come up on the other side of that bridge over here to the finish line on Macadam Way. Macadam is in tarmac, that very same person. You can see in the distance there, that's the chimney and Underfall Yard. If you ever get a chance to go to Underfall Yard, it's a really nice area where they still make boats. One of the last sort of proper old areas of Bristol boat building, and there's a nice cafe and stuff there. And you can see one of the bonded warehouses in the distance here. That's where all the kind of bonded goods had to be kind of stored whilst the duty was paid on it. It's considerably less windy over this side of the river. You can see the Create Centre I was trying to point out in the other video by the finish line on Macadam Way, and the other bonded warehouse. And I think you can just about make out the third one in the distance there. So there's the 3 bonded warehouses, and obviously this is the Cumberland Basin, and there's that container again. So this whole area is where transition is, the finish line, the swim, the bike loops around here 4 times on the standard distance. The run goes out and comes back in here. So yeah, it's kind of triathlon central. It's the heart of the race here during race day. You get such a great view of Bristol from up here. So here's the Brunel Lock down here that keeps Bristol Harbour tidal. You can see the low level of the water here and the high level of the floating harbour here. And then you've got the 3 bonded warehouses. There's the 2 that are next to the Cumberland Basin. This is the Create Centre where the race registration used to be, and might well be there this time. And in the distance there's the far one there. I think they're numbered A, B and C from what I can remember. And then you've got the Plimsoll Bridge here, which is obviously named after the man who invented trainers or something. So it's getting really super windy here, so I'm going to head back to the workshop in a minute, finish this vlog off there. So here's a few of the kind of bits and pieces really about the race here in Bristol that I really love. Got a swim behind me. It's just a really cool place to be, and yeah, I'm going to head back to the workshop now and finish up this vlog there. Storm Alley's definitely here. It's blowing a gale outside, and I'm pretty glad I'm not out running or riding my bike, or I guess open water swimming. Haven't had a chance to do all those 3 things again. Still no training. Second round of antibiotics now. Hopefully I'll be able to report back that I've been training next week, but it's just too dangerous to train with this kind of cough. Anyway, blah 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 blah. Still not training, and I am thinking about what I'm going to do when I come back. And so here's the thing, right? So since the mid-80s, I've been into cycling, since the very first thing I was ever passionate about. I love the sounds, the smells, the car horns, the team cars, the kit, the buses, the mechanics. I love the bikes. I love the caps, everything. You name it, I love it. I love the solitary, utter agony that cyclists are in. And I particularly have a love for time trialling, and I love time trialists. My heroes have always been time trialists. When I first got my first bike magazine, it was all about Tony Doyle, track cycling and cyclocross, which I hated at the time. Yeah, my real passion lay in time trialists, and my first hero was Stephen Roche, who won the Tour de France in 1987. And now all 3 Grand Tours are held by British riders, with Froome and with Simon Yates and with Geraint Thomas. TUEs and mislaid medical forms and birthplaces and notwithstanding, they're all British riders, and you can't move on the roads for cyclists out on the weekend, and it used to be a rarity when I was a kid. I adore time trialling. I'm not a great time trial rider, but it is my absolute passion. I need to focus on one thing when I finally get back to being able to train. I need to focus on one thing. And with all that in mind, I've decided that I think the most important thing for me to focus on is run. It's the easiest way for me to lose all these pounds that I've been piling on, and it's the simplest thing, just to pull some trainers on and get out. I'm just going to run as much as I can. I'm going to rebuild my fitness, my base fitness, and my very best season followed on from doing a lot of long course racing, including an ultra marathon in November of 2014, and I think my fastest year was based off of the fact that I did so much running between September and November. Hundreds of miles, and I think that's probably going to be the way forward. I hope you enjoyed the bike B-roll stuff. I enjoyed shooting that. I love the form of bikes and everything. And I don't think running shoes really have the same passion about them, really. So I had to shoot some nice B-roll of some bike stuff. I am still feeling pretty positive. I think I'm still feeling pretty positive, but it is dragging now, and I need to get well. And yeah, I just like to be training again now. Positivity, I think, is wearing a bit thin now. I could really do with getting out on and training now. That would be good. So fingers crossed. Hopefully next week that'll be what I can tell you. I've actually done some training finally. Anyway, have a good week.